This episode of Digital Photography Cafe is brought to you by Focus Pyramid, the autofocus lens calibration tool for your camera.
Welcome to the Digital Photography Cafe. I'm Trevor Current, your digital marketing guy.
And I'm Joseph Christina, your professional photographer.
So grab a latte, pull up a chair, and join us as we chat about the art and business of photography.
So hey everybody, welcome back to the show. Last week we talked about the new ultra-thin Google Chromebook, another print magazine bites the dust, 4K hits prime time, and tips to shoot long lenses without a tripod. If you haven't listened to last week's show, I encourage you to do so. You can find it at our website, digitalphotographycafe.com, in iTunes, listen with the most popular Stitcher and TuneIn radio apps, and now watch us on HDTV through TiVo.
So Joe, we are back, episode 77.
We made it. We are here.
We're here again.
Absolutely, 77. We're getting up there.
I know. We're plugging away, man. Plugging.
That's right.
Away.
How's everything going over there?
Everything's going good. We're starting to wrap up this renovation a little bit. Now it's basically in my ballpark to do the painting, and I got to lay a laminate floor down, one of those Pergo type things.
That's fun.
But once that's done, we'll get the trim up, and I'll move my office. We'll have the new studio, and it's going to be awesome. Can't wait.
Excellent. Over here, we are just hours away from that hurricane from getting pretty close to us in South Florida. So the kids are home from school today and tomorrow. They're estimating, 50, 60, 70 mile per hour winds. And that's if it misses us. If it doesn't miss us, then we're looking at well in excess of 100 mile per hour winds. So, but my understanding is this thing is going to be just kind of going by us, and then it's going to have a direct route straight to you.
Straight to New Jersey. Yeah, from what we're seeing on the weather map, Monday, by the time this goes live, we could be in the middle of the perfect storm. That's what they're saying. Mm-hmm. The conversion of, three storms in storm one? Systems like converging over top of New Jersey, New York area. So we could get hammered. Yeah.
Well,
not looking forward to that.
No.
Loss
so
of power.
I tell you what, we need to take a minute to kind of explain to everyone what exactly the Digital Photography Cafe Extra stuff is. What do you think? Because I know we put out some extra content last week, and we got a couple of questions. So what is this? What is this extra?
Yeah. Anybody that subscribed to the show, you may have seen a couple extra shows come down through the channel there on iTunes or through your RSS. And we're just simply calling them Digital Photography Cafe Extra. And they have just the name of whatever the topic is that we're talking about. So, a lot of times during our regular shows, we just don't have enough time to cover all the details that we would like to, let's say, on a particular subject. So, we like to vary the show topics, to keep things interesting. So we want to kind of move along with them during the 30 to 40 minute shows. So doing these Digital Photography Cafe Extras, it's a way of us to provide, additional information about maybe a show topic that we just want to expand on a little bit more. And we can also use this as a platform for, commentary on special events, and other things that are happening in the industry.
Right. And that actually just happened this week. So we had one extra piece that went out, and that was just a little piece that I put together. It was like 5, maybe 8 minutes long. And that's going to be normally how long these will be. They'll be just really, really short pieces that basically, like you said, kind of expound upon what we've already discussed and kind of maybe illustrate it a little bit more and make it more visual. So, if you're listening, this really doesn't kind of pertain as much, but we encourage you to subscribe to the video side of it because you're going to get a little bit more out of it because you're going to be able to see all the things. So, and then the other thing that we did, and that matter of fact, what I did is I kind of played with the, the color checker passport. Right. And we kind of talked about 18% gray chips. And
and that was kind of in reference to show 75 when we were talking about calibrating your workflow.
Exactly. And then what we did, of course, Apple had that huge event When we thought it was only going to be the iPad mini, and they released all kinds of stuff from, the mini to the brand new MacBook Pro to new iMacs to, the new iPad that they didn't even really push that hard.
Yeah, the 4th generation iPad.
Yeah, 4th generation.
Yep.
I feel bad for all the people that bought the 3rd generation like 6 months ago. That's like ready to put the pasture, but it has the old style connector, 30 pin compared to the new Lightning. Anyways, and then of course the major topic was the 7.9 inch iMac. And what we did is, not only did we do a commentary type of show, which is only like 5, 10, I don't know, maybe even 15 minutes long, but we also live tweeted everything that went on. So if anyone was watching our feed through Twitter, they would actually get a line by line kind of what was going on live. So if you're at work or something, you could just tune in and take a look and watch Digital Photography Cafe's feed through Twitter, and you know exactly what's going on. We watched and commentated and put on all of the pertinent information, so you didn't have to.
Yeah, so that's exactly right. I mean, there's a lot of times these things are happening during the middle of the day when people have, maybe they're doing their day job or they're in the middle of a gig or whatever, but maybe they have some downtime. They can't really go in and, tune into the blogs or tune into, any type of live video coverage or what have you. But it's real easy to just flip open your Twitter stream and then go to our page and just kind of look and see what all of our, kind of read down the list and see what all of our commentary was. So it's it's a convenient way. You can do it from your mobile phone. You can do it from your iPads, your Androids, wherever you can access Twitter, you can see, the updates.
Right. And if you can't access Twitter and you can get onto the web, like you said, you can go straight to our site, and there's a little widget, and all of these, all this data is constantly going through there, so you can kind of read it from there. So anyways, that's kind of the skinny, as they say, to what exactly is Digital Photography Cafe Extra, hence the name Extra. Right?
Yeah, and we're going to try and do, a couple of these a month. We're not committing to any type of schedule with them. Basically, if we talk about something in a show that really strikes us and we want to expand on it more, we will. And again, if there's something special that pops up and we want to, just do that, then that's what we'll do. So it's really no guarantee. You're going to get your show every week, your regular show every week. The extras are just that, extra.
Extra. That's right. So I guess the topic that we're kind of looking at today for let's say the business side of the photography portion of the show is Google playing mind games with you? This is the big question. Are they? Aren't they? Well, what's the answer, Trev?
Yeah. This came from an interesting article I found on Marketing Profs. They're a great website for all kinds of marketing and social media info and stuff. And so basically, kind of, to give a rundown of the whole Google thing. We all know how important it is for your website to rank on the first page in Google. Now, a lot of times that can be very difficult to achieve, but we know ideally you want to be on the first page, because really, if people are doing a Google search, they're looking for a photographer, they probably are not going to go much past the first couple pages. And if you're kind of lost in the sauce, if you're down like on page 1,000, you're just never going to get found.
Maybe even page 2, you might not get found.
Yeah, exactly. They may just never even make it over to page 2. So, so we always talk about, creating a blog, with updated posts, frequently updated posts, and other types of online content to use to help drive traffic to your photography site. But that's also great for SEO.
Right.
And a lot of people are trying to do their SEO work, their own work and stuff. And, sometimes it's just not working out for them. Other people even hire companies to do it for them. And, some of these companies are good. Some of them are very reputable. Some of them are using the proper tactics, and others are using, kind of what we call black hat techniques, or very gray at least.
Gray at least. Yeah. And that's the truth. There's, how many of these emails do we get, in our email inbox that says, hey, we'll get you more traffic through, our SEO, techniques are second to none. And, we'll get you on the first guaranteed.
And all that. And those are just a load of crap. I mean, aside from them being
for
spam,
the most part,
it's impossible for anyone to guarantee that. And Google is seeing to that. because, you know, in the past there have been all kinds of ways that, you know, these SEO specialists, we'll just call them, have been have been able to like tweak keywords and placement of elements on the page, and using certain title tags and
keyword stuffing,
all
tons of link backs to all different sites, and on. The list goes on and on, right?
Yeah, exactly. And basically, you know, Google kind of, you know, has been tweaking their algorithms for, you know, years now to try and weed out all this stuff, because realistically, a lot of these sites are garbage. A lot of them are they're just sites that want to, you know, grab your information, or they want to, you know, put up some basic content that can be found anywhere, just in the hopes that you'll click on their Google AdSense.
The worst, I think, the worst offenders that I just cannot stand is when you're looking for something and you see all of these sites, and they're all different sites, but every time you click on one, it goes to the same site or a different site, but they all look the same because it's run by the same person.
Yep.
And they're like these aggregation sites, these aggregates of information, and they just bring in, they're just bringing in all of this data and just dumping a ton of AdSense, you know, in there just to try to make a buck, and you're really not getting any information at all out of it. And they're ranked, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean, it's just all the same people. So Google's
that's
finally,
that's what people do. I mean, they'll take and launch 100 websites.
Oh yeah,
and
definitely.
they'll all be just, you know, centered around, you know, keywords that get a lot of search results. All right.
Right. Or they link to each other.
They link to each other. They build the rankings that way. Exactly. And, you know, as you're searching for information, you know, you go to these sites that are just basically duplicating other people. And you know what? And the problem with this is they're not even manually duplicating the content.
No.
They're doing it all through automation using RSS feeds.
Yeah.
You know, and they're just pulling this information in. They're kind of stripping it a little bit, reformatting a little bit. You know, I've found a lot of current photographer articles being syndicated like this on other people's websites. And, and it's kind of annoying because the content is poor. You know, they're on the rest of the site. And they're linking to me, which is showing Google that, you know, I'm getting this inbound link. And that was always part of the problem. So you'd have these spammer sites, these you know, hack sites, these garbage sites, stealing your content, in linking to you, and Google will look at it and say, oh, they're a poor quality site, they're linking to you, so we're going to actually knock you down.
And what's even worse too is then Google has to somehow discern where was this information originated.
Right.
Even though you created the content, if it's, you know, taken by all of these little sites that aggregate the information, it might be hard for Google to decide, oh, well, it originated here at Current Photographer, it originated here at Digital Photography Cafe.
Right.
You know, maybe it looks like you stole it. So
that's exactly right.
You know, it's definitely problematic, and I'm sure, you know, they're knee deep in code to try to figure this stuff out.
Well, they are, and you know, a while back, Google had 2 major updates to their algorithms. They were called Penguin and Panda.
Yeah, I remember that.
Why the names I don't know, but whatever.
Right.
So really what that happened is with those 2 updates, that killed a lot of websites. You know, a lot of websites that were duplicating content, a lot of websites that were not of high quality, they just got killed. Right. And unfortunately, there was a lot of, you know, good sites that got killed too. You know, inadvertently.
Or maybe not necessarily fully killed, but let's say dropped in rankings dramatically.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because then all of a sudden there was a part of that actually kind of looked down upon sites that had a ton of other sites linking to them.
Right.
Which has always been like the model. It's like try to get as many sites that are good to link to you, and you'll do well in SEO, in the whole SEO game. And after this whole update, all of a sudden it's like these people that have so many great sites that are linking back to them, some of them actually went down in rankings, which is crazy.
It's crazy. I mean, it's totally counterintuitive to what we thought is the way that SEO works. But that's the thing. I mean, you know, everybody says, well, you know, why is Google making it harder? You know, I mean, I thought their whole motto was do no evil, right? So now they're making it harder on everybody. But fact of the matter is, Google is providing a free search service.
Right.
And they're in the business of selling ads. That's really what it comes down to. And by making
Correct.
their search results, you know, as high a quality as possible, it's going to make the user experience better, and it's going to make more and more and more people keep using Google, which in return obviously will, you know, see more ads and will get more clicks. That's how they make their money.
That's what Microsoft has been doing with Bing, is trying to make the results better than the results that you'd get with Google. And just like you said, by doing so, they will be able to bring in more ad revenue. So yeah, they're trying to make, you know, a better mousetrap, and I can't even imagine how they get there. These people are just, you know, the algorithms that go on in the back end to try to figure these patterns out, because that's what it is. It's patterning.
It's patterning, absolutely.
Yeah, and seeing, you know, what is happening, and I'm sure trying to figure out where an article started. That means that they actually have to comb the internet faster than anyone, because they date it, they timestamp it, and I'm sure they use that in the algorithm to decide who came first, you know, the chicken or the egg.
Yeah.
So it must be nuts. I can't even imagine.
Yeah, no, that's it. It's very difficult. I mean, imagine the database that they have to have, and imagine the power of the server clusters they need to do these comparisons on the fly to try and be able to figure all this stuff out and figure out the rankings. Right. That's why, you know, it may take a couple days before, you know, like if you're doing some of your own SEO work, or even if you have a company, if you've hired a company to do the work for you, it may take a couple days before you start noticing any bit of a difference.
Exactly.
You know, just because it takes so long for them to process that.
Right. And the people that really know what they're doing, they don't go in there and, you know, add, you know, keywords or change keywords and then, you know, check it the next day, or they understand that by doing any modification, that modification doesn't quote unquote go live to Google. It could be, you know, 3 days, it could be a week, it could be a whole month, who knows? But, you know, you don't want to be that guy that's constantly shucking and jiving, trying to make something work, because you might go lower and lower and lower in the rankings instead of better, because they're probably monitoring this stuff, you know?
Well, yeah, they absolutely are. I mean, and that's kind of the whole point of this new algorithm and the way it works. So kind of the breakdown, the way it works is like, so let's say you are doing these keyword tweaking, and you're going in and you're changing your website title tags, okay?
Right.
So then Google will index your site, and it will fluctuate your rankings again. And then you'll see, and maybe not in a good way. I mean, rather than going up, you might go down.
Sure.
So then you react, you go in, you change your keywords again, you change your title tags again. Then Google, you know, readjusts and they re-rank you. Now, maybe you might have gone up, maybe you went down again.
And they take out their little pen, and they, you know, they stick it into their tongue, and they put a little check mark in a box.
Yep.
Oh,
yep.
You know, this was a change, and wait a second, it changed again, and oh, wait, it changed again. Now you're flagged.
Well, that's exactly it. So then they basically mark you as one of these people who are trying to game their system, and they'll just keep you in this vicious cycle. And that's really the problem, is that there's no rhyme or reason that anybody really can figure out as the way these algorithms work to be able to detect this pattern and detect the rules. So you could just be stuck in this vicious cycle going back and forth, back and forth. So really, at the end of the day, what you got to do is just play by the rules, you know, don't get caught doing these types of things, and your site will settle out and take on a natural ranking position.
Content is king. Always put out good stuff, or don't put out anything.
Right.
And, you know, obviously you want to keyword stuff, because, you know, Google doesn't know what you're trying to say. You need to say it. So if it's a picture, you know, so if it's a picture, you want to describe the picture. I mean, that's just the way it is. This isn't rocket science, you know. Use every possibility, every possible portion of, let's say, if you're putting up a picture, that you can. The title, any kind of keywords, any kind of metadata you can put in there. And of course, the link itself. You want to call the image what it is. You know, if it's a, you know, it's a white potato with a nose stuck on it and eyes, well, I would just call it all that, because it's going to be easily found, and that's the whole goal. And that's not trying to game the system. That's just being smart, right?
No, exactly. That's being smart. It's using the the metadata in your image is properly,
Right.
you know, and using the descriptions on the website, you know, the copy, the text for your photos, it's using it accordingly. You know, I mean, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. That is clean SEO.
Right.
You know, it's when you're trying to keyword stuff, you know, all of these, you know, terms and things in it that are irrelevant to the article or irrelevant to the image. That's what they're trying to prevent. So
God forbid you start duplicating these keywords too, and now you really go down the slippery slope. And yeah, like I was saying with the potato, I mean, it'd be very easily, you know, you can call that picture Mr. Potato Head, but if you actually described it, it'll be a lot easier for Google to index it and people find the image. So yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
And, you know, and as far as link building goes, you know, don't go and register your website for every directory that's on the internet. You know, I mean, if it's a photography related directory, then yeah, that's relevant. That makes sense to do it. But really the way to get these natural inbound links is try guest posting. I mean, we've talked about that a lot. You know, come guest post on Current Photographer or any other number of photography sites out there. We're all more than happy to give you links back to your site and your profiles and stuff. I mean, it's a great equity exchange. We get some good content. You get some good inbound links from a high quality website. So, you know, that's an easy way to do it. You know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And of course, you know, the idea is that the content has to be what people are looking for. So we said this in the past, but you know, if you're a photographer and you're trying to get commercial work, you know, by you know, constantly discussing photo tips or discussing a wedding you know, that you did, well, that's not really going to help you with this commercial work. So maybe you're a food photographer. You need to discuss food photography in every single aspect of it that you can possibly think of, and then come up with some more. And just constantly talk about that. It's just going to rank you higher, and it will, you know, it won't, I would say, kind of take the site and make it so that you just don't know where it should be placed. You know, you kind of want the site slightly pigeonholed, you know, if you're going, if you want to rank,
you rank for more of those keywords.
Yeah, absolutely. You need to kind of, you know, be on point, be on target, keep it nice and clean and sharp, and you're going to get better. You know, the SEO will definitely, it'll help out that way in comparison to trying to push and force feed keywords. That's just not going to do it.
Right. And that's why I know on several episodes back, we were talking again about writing blog posts and talking about, you know, if you're a wedding photographer, about writing about venues that you shoot at. Not only do those keywords and names of the venues show up in your blog posts and get indexed and kind of create that connection, but now the venue that you wrote about, if you contact them and say, hey, you know, I'm a photographer, I shoot at your facility all the time, I really like it, just wanted to let you know that I wrote about it, you know, maybe they'll even write, you know, a little post or link back to you in their reviews section and say, oh, see what, you know, John Smith Photography says about our facility. You know, I mean, talk about important to a bride making a decision. They want to know that photographers like shooting at these facilities and maybe what the facility has to offer.
Yeah, you know, a perfect example of that is if you look up digital photography, very broad term, very, very broad term. You will find Digital Photography Cafe, our show, at 63. Number 63 out of 545 million results. So 63 out of, you know, 545 million, that's pretty good. And are we doing anything in the back of, you know, back of it, doing anything black hat, even gray hat, or any SEO, anything? No. We're just providing good content, talking to you guys, and then kind of writing about it a little bit in a quick blog post. That's it. And just by doing that, other sites, other people link to it, but usually the people that do are the people that really matter. And it's just not all of these aggregate sites, as I would say, just trying to pull data that end up hurting us instead of helping us, right?
Right. That's exactly right. I mean, you know, we say, okay, 63, wow, all right, you know, that's great and all, but big deal, you know, you're never going to get found. Who's gonna click through 6 pages of search results to find you? Well, no, that's true. We may not get organically found from somebody searching for digital photography because maybe that term is very broad. Again, you know, maybe they're looking specifically for shooting tips or what have you. But what that does show is that Google looks at digitalphotographycafe.com as an authoritative site, and it looks at it highly enough to rank us on page 6 out of 545 million results. So that really is telling, and that we're definitely going in the right direction.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, anyways, good stuff. Before we go to the other portion of the show, let's go ahead and take a quick break and hear from one of our sponsors.
Are you frustrated with slightly out of focus images when you know your autofocus spot was dead on? It's simply not your fault. From manufacturer to manufacturer, and even lens copy to lens copy, there are slight variances to the exact spot where light is being focused onto the sensor. Finally, there's a product that allows you to compensate for those variances and make sharper images immediately. Focus Pyramid, the autofocus lens calibration tool, is an absolute must for every photographer. If you want to make the sharpest images possible, then you need to take control over your camera's focusing system. With the Focus Pyramid, you can calibrate all of your lenses on your lunch break. The Focus Pyramid makes lens calibration quick and easy at an affordable price. So give your lenses a new lease on life and take your photography to the next level. Head over to focuspyramid.com/DPC and get an additional 10% off just for being a show listener.
All right, guys, so we're back. Well, we got a question that was kind of interesting this week, and it had to do with event photography and just photography in general, and getting light, let's say good light on a subject, and not this horrible side light that you see so many times. And so, you know, I was kind of thinking about this, and I'm like, well, let me, I guess, talk about what I do. As you know, I've been shooting forever, and I've worked, you know, events with 500, you know, big gala events with 500 people. And, you know, in these type of situations, you're dealing with a lot of very rich people, very popular people. You're dealing with actors, actresses. You're dealing with people that they will give you seconds. That's what you have. You have seconds. Yeah. And many times the magazines, they want a certain image. They want either something that's portrait or they want something that's landscape, and they don't really like to go and crop it later because they still want something that has the resolution is still there. So how do you do this without getting this side light? Now, so normally, let me grab one of my cameras here. I don't know which one this is, but what is this? This is like a 7D with a flash on the top. Anyway, so normally what we do, right, the old school, is you would take your picture, right, and you would shoot it, let's say, in a landscape type of mode, and then you would flip it over, and then you would shoot it in a portrait mode. The problem with that is if you shoot it with your flash, you know, side to the side here, you end up with this horribly just god-awful side lighting, right? You've seen that all the time, right, Joe?
Yep.
So anyway, so then what we would do is, what would you say? You would shoot, you know, once with this on landscape, you flip it over to portrait, and we'd say, oh, well, let's go ahead and just flip our flash up, right? So it's pointing up to the ceiling. Well, you know, that works. Now you have a little bit less of the side light. It's not as bad, but there's an easier way, right? There's always an easier way. And if you do it continuously, you're always finding the easier way because it's necessary.
Sure.
So
need to be more efficient.
Yeah, exactly. So what I do is I use a bracket. Okay. Now, there's many different brackets. Before I get into it, let me show you my bracket so you can see this thing. So there you go. So it's this big, kind of like a monstrosity, but that's mine.
Yes, you have a nice bracket.
Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate that, Trevor. So, there's sometimes I get these weird comments, but that's not one of them. But anyway, so, yeah, so there is a lot of different brackets out there, from low cost to extremely expensive, and they do different things. Now, StroboFrame has one. It's probably the most popular bracket out there, right? They have, let's see, it's Velo, you have Bauer, there's a lot of different ones, and each of them do something a little bit different. For example, the Bauer bracket, it's one of these, and I'm sure a lot of you guys out there have seen these before. The entire flash is what moves in the bracket. So the flash actually rotates like 180 degrees. It flips. Now that's great. You know, that's all right. They're very lightweight. They're more lightweight than the item that I just showed you, the bigger one. But for me, My favorite bracket is one, it's a custom bracket by Lindahl. Now, the idea here is, what are you trying to accomplish with these brackets? What are you doing? Well, the idea is you're trying to keep your flash exactly center of your lens. So this way you don't have any, let's say, awful, and we've all seen this, just this awful shadows either on one side or the other. Because what happens then, by keeping it right above the flash, you end up having a shadow behind the person that's not in the frame. So it looks nice. Now, that doesn't mean go and take your flash and point it directly at the person. That's not necessarily what we're talking about here. The idea is keeping the flash above the camera, directly above the sensor, directly above the lens. So,
right. Now that's going to give you a little bit more of a flatter light. You're not going to have, we're not talking about modeling a portrait here with multiple lights and such. You are doing event photography with a single flash, let's say. Maybe you don't even have an assistant that's holding a flash up on a pole or something like that for that extra light source. So your lighting will be a little bit flatter, but it's going to be more even and not, it's not going to have a horrible side.
Right. So you could reduce, the flatness of it by taking the flash that now is directly over your lens and pointing it at a wall, pointing at the ceiling, pointing at, left, pointing at right. By doing so, you still have the initial big bang of flash dead over the lens. So you don't have that horrible side lighting, but you do have some cast coming from one side or the other that does give a little bit of three-dimensionality to the subject. So yes, you could get you could get some flat lighting, or you can get some pretty decent lighting using this method. The main thing that you use this for is you need to be able to, let's say if you're in an event, you need to be able to shoot both portrait and landscape in split seconds. Just be able to bang, 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 bang without having to go and try rotating this flash continuously. So this type of, so once again, let me grab my bracket so you guys can see it. So what happens here is, instead of the flash moving around this whole contraption, the actual camera rotates inside or around itself. So the flash doesn't move at all, just the camera does. So the camera rotates 90 degrees, and that's it. So what happens is the lens is always dead over the flash. Comes up with, well, obviously you have some nice flattering light that's going to, like, once again, put that shadow behind the person, instead of in front of them, or to the side of them, which is what we don't want. So anyway, that's that.
And your lighting is consistent from portrait to landscape.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And that's one of the major problems when you go and you try flipping your camera flash from forward to backward, and constantly flipping it when you're going from portrait to landscape, because you do get this varying light. So most of the time you'll notice, if you do this, and if you've been around taking the shots for a long time, you'll notice that you'll look at your work after and you'll say, every single shot that I did in landscape just looks so good. And then as soon as I go and I switch the camera to portrait, it's like, it's so bad. Can't it just, can't they just all
well,
be
that's
the same?
it. This is where the consistency comes in. And again, we always talk about, the difference between an amateur and a professional is not necessarily that you're being paid, but it's that you can deliver consistent results.
And quickly. The key is
quickly. By having a tool like this allows you to keep consistent lighting, and it allows you to move freely and quickly, to get the shots you need without having to fumble with changing your flash direction, rotating the head, and what have you.
Exactly. And what happens is when you do this for quite some time, people have noticed, I'm sure, if you've done it for a while, that your flash all of a sudden stops working. You don't know why. And the reason behind this is is this vibration that occurs on the flash shoe. So if you use one of these that rotate within them, that like the one I just showed you, that the camera rotates, what happens is the flash stays steady and sturdy in one spot, and that's it. Just the camera is rotating. You get the ones where you're flipping it. They are cheaper, but what happens is you're moving the stuff around. And remember, the flash is sitting at the top, and it's only being held just by the shoe, just that little bit. And what happens is it damages that hot shoe. And I can't tell you how many of these flashes I've sent back because they don't work. And what comes back in the report? Oh, you know, the hot shoe is damaged.
The hot shoe is bad.
And this is why. That vibration of you moving it around actually messes up those hot shoes. The newer ones are not as bad as the old ones, but they still have this problem because it's the weak link. You know, you have this big, heavy, you know, you have 4 AA batteries, which are very weighty in these and you're constantly flipping them. And that hot shoe just takes all of that vibration into itself, and you end up with the problems. So, you know.
So looking at it though, I mean that, you know, you've got the 5D Mark II on there with the battery grip. You've got this big rotating bracket plus the flash bracket with the flash.
Right.
So what does that weigh? I mean, does that whole setup add a lot of extra weight to the camera rig?
Yeah. So one of my arms is bigger than the other. One forearm is bigger than the other, not for any reason that you're thinking. And that's just, you know, it's just the nature of the beast. If you really, you know, if you want to get flattering light and you're on like this time constraint, that's just what you need to do. If you remember the old school photographers, they always had a bracket. Always. Yep. And now, you know, people have kind of gone, you know, the bracket's kind of gone on the wayside, and people are like, I don't want to carry that. It's too heavy. Well, you know, if you want consistency and, you know, you want flattering light, in both portrait and landscape, the bottom line is you need a bracket or you need an assistant to come and walk with you and put the light where you need it all the time. Now, I don't know about you. I don't have enough money for multiple assistants to hold light. So a bracket for me when I'm doing a gala event, or even if I'm shooting a portrait on the beach, to get that light always exact every single time, that's golden. Because I know what I'm going to get before I get it. You can't get anything better than that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's great. That's great information. I mean, I don't really shoot events to the point where I need that type of equipment. Again, most of my stuff is studio work or kind of just fun work. I mean, I don't need that, but I can imagine that, you know, doing this type of event photography, weddings, you know, special events, birthdays, what have you, where you're on the fly, even, you know, media type stuff where you're shooting for the media. And you need to go get live on location shots and stuff. You need to be able to do it quick, do it efficiently. You know, there are certain cases where you may not want that big of a rig. You may want just the body with the flash on it or what have you. But nonetheless, I mean, it sounds like a great tool to help you keep that consistency.
Absolutely.
And keep a professional look.
Let me end kind of with this. You can get the cheaper ones anywhere from $29 to $59. For the one that I just showed, you're probably going to pay for the combination of the bracket itself that spins, as well as the top piece where you're ending up putting your flash. You're going to be in upwards of maybe $250. It's not cheap.
Right.
Some of them are up to $300. But I tell you what, if you have that consistency and you don't have to sit there and fuss with your flash every time, and you know what you're going to get every time you shoot, and you're in this time constraint, and you know you need to produce both portrait and landscape within seconds, there's no other way. I will not go to an event without it.
Yeah.
So
good stuff, man.
All right, man. Well, I think we need to get out of here.
Yes, we do. So thanks everybody again for listening. And you know, again, Joe, we're ranking really great in iTunes. You know, I went in just this week again, just, you know, because I try and keep up a weekly tab of where we are, and we were like 7 for audio, 10 for video. So I mean, that's fantastic. That is awesome stuff.
You're just anal, is what it is. You're just anal.
I am. Well, you know, we work hard to do all this stuff. You want to see, again, like with the SEO stuff we're talking about. You know, you want to see that your hard work is paying off and that you're being recognized and you're ranking. You know, where we need to be. So. Anyway, good stuff. So if you guys are just listening off the site or what have you, you know, we definitely encourage you to go over to iTunes and subscribe. You can get it for free. You know, you can get it through RSS and on all of these other great applications and locations that Joe mentioned at the beginning. So Joe, if people want to connect with you, where's the best place to reach you?
The easiest way would be through Twitter at Joseph Christina, and that's Christina without an H.
Great, and you can connect with me on Twitter. It's at Trevor Current.
All right, Trevor. Well, I think that is it for show 77. That's another one in the can. Great show as always. If you guys have any questions or topics you'd like discussed on next week's show, send us a message through our website, digitalphotographycafe.com, or you can connect with us on our Twitter site. Of course, here you got to write this down, at DPhotoCafe. We love those little questions coming in through Twitter. That's awesome, as we use them for the following week. If you're listening on the go, fear not. Everything that we covered in this week's show can easily be found in our show notes at our website. Once again, keep your questions and comments coming, and we'll talk to you next week.